Perhaps not so different from Indonesia in some respects, in other respects quite different. Are we all right? Yeah. If there are some more comfortable seats left, so if you feel not so comfortable sitting there, let me know.
Ketua kelas. Pak Komjen.
Aduh, sama banget ya. Disuruh maju aja susah ya Bu ya.
This is actually a room that we use as a classroom as well, when students have to pitch, in our entrepreneurship classes, or so sometimes they have to present stuff. So we actually have students in this room as well, and sort of try to convince potential investors and so forth, right? Can we close the door, please? Can we close? Yeah, thank you very much. So about a little bit where sort of who we are, then you may know. But maybe before that, who of you is studying business? Yes. Raise your hand. Who of you is not studying business? Everybody. Everybody, right? And can I just ask, so you are studying business in the postgraduate level, a master, or MBA? What is it called? Master Management. Yeah. It's similar sort of stuff, right? It's not very different. Okay, so nobody studies something else. All right. Okay. Then we speak the same language. Then that's good. So RMIT Vietnam. We are actually a foreign sort of campus of RMIT in Australia. So anybody know what RMIT stands for? Yeah, somebody here? Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology. The M is Melbourne in Australia. So if you ever travel to Melbourne, you will see that the sort of one part of the central part of Melbourne is basically owned by RMIT. We have about 130 skyscrapers there, right? So big university. RMIT globally has 100,000 students. 100,000 students. So it's a fairly large university, even by U.S. standards, where you have state universities or so. So it's a large organization. RMIT in Melbourne was founded about 130 years ago. It comes from the craftsmen. The people like the plumber and the carpenter, and they said, okay, we use our hands very well, but let's also train our brains a bit. And this is still our motto today. We have like a skilled hand and a clever mind, so to speak. This is our motto. So we are very applied in nature. We not so theory focused, but we really want to see the stuff that we teach. How can students use that in their workplace, right? So we embrace, for example, AI, because we like to use tools here at this university, because that's our DNA, our origin, right? So using tools to do something faster and better, right? So RMIT in Melbourne and in Vietnam, we celebrate this year our 25th anniversary here in Vietnam, the only foreign university in Vietnam. So we are basically regulated by Australian regulators, not by Vietnamese regulators. So it's almost like extraterritorial here. So we speak only English here, because the diploma that students get exactly the same like in Melbourne, right? So we have to comply with sort of the Melbourne rules, right? Which sometimes is nice, sometimes not so nice, because sometimes these rules just don't work very well in Vietnam, right? We can get to that. Here in Vietnam, we have about 14,000 students. I think we should be updated. 14,000 students. We have two big campuses. One is here. About 10,000 students here, and then another campus in Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. About 4,000 students, and then a small campus in Hanoi, in Da Nang. Da Nang is in the middle. Maybe you've heard of Da Nang, right? So in the middle, but we teach only English there. Okay? So in Da Nang, but here in the north, we teach a full program here in Vietnam, right? Yeah, so we have we have about 50 different nationalities in campus. Among those, 14,000 students in Vietnam. Not surprising. We are very proud of our faculty diversity. So the lecturers, we have from 40 countries, different lecturers. So when we teach global business, it's great. So we, I think in the business school, I think 99% of the PhDs were attained outside of Vietnam, in fact. So we kind of try to match sort of global standards. So I think there's some numbers here. You can sort of made more than 20,000 alumni over the time, over the last 25 years. So we are currently at capacity here, so we cannot grow anymore because our building just doesn't allow us to. So we're having plans to build a new building, but there's a lot of demand for sort of foreign education here in Vietnam, which is a good problem to have. So our biggest problem is when one lecturer is sick and we have to reschedule a class, and we will not find a classroom. So it's sort of a good problem to have. At the same time, also our MBA program, we have about 600 full-time MBA students. So it's one of the largest programs in the region. It's larger than National University of Singapore. I'm not too sure, but maybe some Indonesian schools are very large as well. That's my understanding. So we have undergraduate education. We have here in Vietnam 4 postgraduate programs. In Melbourne, it's a whole different ballgame. You can study material science, bioscience, which we don't have here. But postgraduate programs, we offer, the MBA, the Master of International Business. Then we have a Master of AI, and a Master in Cybersecurity. Right, as well. Then we offer doctoral programs, so in management. So if you're interested, after, please consider us. We have more scholarships than students. So if you're interested in pursuing an academic career, please consider us as a place to do your PhD. We also have pathway programs. So those are programs usually transitioning students from a Vietnamese high school to an Australian university, which we are, right? So the kind of approach is very different, so we need to bridge that somehow. So many of our undergraduate students would spend 1 year or so just sort of like getting warmed up for their real study here. So we offer these pathway programs where they learn more technical English, business English, and also, we have, of course, they learn to learn, because in Vietnamese high school system, there's not so much about thinking, but it's about knowing. And so they're sometimes surprised when they enter, an Australian university. So then we have 4 schools. Here, one school is actually about these pathway programs, then a school of science, communication design, and the last school is where I am. I'm at the business school. So we have the university, and underneath the university we have 4 schools. The business school is by far the largest one, right? So out of the 14,000 students in Vietnam, 10,000 are in the business school, right? So that's your host today is the business school, if you want. So we have sort of very clear sort of mandate here in Vietnam. Whatever we do, we want to actually make an impact on Vietnam, positive impact. We want to enable our students to make a better Vietnam, right? So we're not here to make assignments or give assignments. That's not our mission. Our mission is to enable our students to help Vietnam to grow. Right? yeah, this mission and now just going to the business school, as I said, 10,000 students. One of the strengths, I think, compared to any school in Vietnam is that we have very close collaboration with industry partners. I haven't taught any course here over the past 10 years where I didn't have someone from the industry, sort of as a guest lecturer, or sometimes they give us assignments, you know, sort of we have a capstone course at the end of the MBA program, and then we ask, you know, CEOs, like, basically, what decision do you have to make? That decision, and we have our students also kind of give recommendations, you know. So very applied. We want to be very close to what's happening in the real world, so to speak, right? So a number of very large companies and small companies as well, we're very close to, but basically we have about 6,000 companies that we work with. So our industry relations team, we have a whole team just for that. Like I can ask them, I'm teaching strategy next semester, I would like someone who can talk about you know, this kind of decision, and they will find me someone, right? We have, I think this is also updated, about 130 PhD holders, faculty. Yeah, and we have been very research active. So we have more than 100 publications, I think, just last year in a sort of very high-ranked journals, right? So we have been undergoing a shift. So we were coming from a teaching orientation to a more balanced kind of portfolio of faculty. And perhaps we are very proud that just 2 months ago we have been accredited by the AACSB, which is kind of a club of universities. They, you know, you have to obey by certain rules, certain processes, and so forth. So which you know, so it was quite a big achievement. For 5 years we worked for that, actually, to be AACSB accredited. RMIT again is ranked, well, one of the highlights perhaps is interesting, blockchain. We're sort of with Stanford University in California, we're basically one of the leading, the second university. So because that is maybe coming from, you know, we have very strong STEM stuff, right? So because we're coming from STEM, you know, so science, technology, engineering, math, that's where RMIT Melbourne is very strong. And so naturally we kind of quite good in computer science and things like that. So combining that with business applications works quite well. Yeah, so here's some more rankings. Maybe so programs, so maybe the undergraduate programs. We have a Bachelor of Business, it's by far the largest, but in science we have a lot of majors. Right? So global business, for example, is a major. Then we have digital marketing as a major. Management is a major. So we have many majors. Then we have a Bachelor of Tourism and Hospitality Management, which is not in the business bachelor. Then the MBA and MIB programs are housed in the business school. Master of AI and Master of Cybersecurity are housed in the School of Engineering. Yeah, so then, you know, within that Bachelor of Business, you can do majors, and this gives you some kind of idea what these majors are. Blockchain-enabled business. So fairly classical kind of choice. Economics, right? So of course, it's a large major here as well. Yeah, and then we have a number of engagement kind of activities. So engagement means sort of we, as a university, we don't want to live in an ivory tower. Just we need to know. We look outside of the university. So we, you know, work with companies. We do a lot of corporate training now, sort of upskilling the middle management or higher management in Vietnam. coming here, learning more about how to lead people, you know, how do you manage the corporation, use transformation, so forth, right? So we are heavily involved in that. Lots of events here. Yeah, corporate training stuff with some of the largest companies, you know, whether it's airlines, for example, training electricity of Vietnam. So some of the very large state-owned companies that we work for. Moviefone is a large mobile provider, and kind of fun. I don't know whether it's here. We this is, for example, we also teach the Communist Party how to do business. So in Hanoi, the Communist Party of Vietnam has you know, their own university, and so we have a leadership program for them. It's kind of fun to teach communists how to do business, you know. So, so this is a very large event. Sometimes, you know, 2,000 delegates from all these provinces in Vietnam coming and doing leadership training and so forth, right? So high impact sort of activities. Some kind of, you know, special places where we learn and teach. For example, we have a financial training lab, so in our finance courses, you can they get real live data from financial markets all over the world. So you can do your own investment portfolio there, right? With live data, you can sort of put options and hedges and things like that. And actually the live stream is very expensive to get live data, but you don't actually play it, right? So, but you can simulate that, right? So we have something like that. We have a robot, but I think it's more like a gimmick for now. Maybe let's see when next year when you come back, whether he has replaced my job or something. Yeah, so some sort of special places that are useful for certain courses that we teach. Yeah, and that's all. And so if this was a little bit fast, that's by design. So yeah, all right. Thank you. But now the fun part, right? So everything is okay?
Yeah,
Okay,
fine.
yeah, all right. Any questions about RMIT? Maybe you have any question? Yeah. What's your name?
My name is Christine.
Christine. What's your question?
Any question? One question. RMIT has won the Golden Dragon Award 20 times. What do you think are the key factors that make RMIT consistently stand out compared to other foreign universities in Vietnam? Thank you.
So the Golden Dragon Award, it's an award for the workplace, for how we treat the employees. So it's a great place to work. So Vietnam, RMIT is a great place to work. And we have won this, I don't know how many years, 20 years? So many times. But number one, it's not surprising because we were born, RMIT is born out of labor movement. Like, so we, you know, the workmen, as I said, the plumbers and the carpenters, they got together. That's actually their union, right? So we have a very close sort of relationship in Australia with the union. So we have to, of course, treat the employees well. And then when you come to Vietnam, you take these very high and sort of standards of how you treat sort of like whatever, you know, time off and how many hours you teach, what are the rewards, and the number of kind of from compensation to the benefits that we give, very good in Vietnam, and because we have to mimic the Australian standards here. So I'm not surprised that we're actually really good in this. And for us, also, it is very important to attract and retain foreign faculty, right? So we are an Australian university, so we have to be careful to keep this foreignness alive. That's why people come here. They don't want to see too many Vietnamese faculty. Maybe some, but so it's very important for a university. You know, the people. It's the only thing we have. When you walk around, it's buildings and rooms. But so what makes the difference are the people, and that's what the university has realized. Okay, Tina. All right. Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, thank you for the time. As we know, Vietnam and China is geographically close and related to Vietnam, right? So, which role RMIT wants to take part to enhance the economic in Vietnam to become the new biggest economic in ASEAN? Its part.
Shall we discuss it after the other presentation? After sort of the fun, right? I'm happy to talk. Spot on. But, any other question about RMIT? All good? Okay, yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your inspiring presentation.
Yeah.
My name is Ferry. One question that I want to ask is, as an international university with a global reputation, how does RMIT ensure that the education, research, and community engagement remain respectful of Vietnam local wisdom?
I love this question. Thank you so much. It's a great question. So, you know, we're Australian, and so, but how do we actually understand Vietnam? How do we know what impact we have? As I said, I think we have this mission to help Vietnam, right? And there are limitations of being Australian, right? So there are some things I think they're negotiable, others not. For example, in teaching, as I said, actually our courses are coming from Australia, if you want, and we sort of franchise them here, right? But we adopt them to local, for example, case studies, right? So we throw out basically all this Australian content and then replace that with Vietnamese content. So the application, we always try to sort of translate that to Vietnamese contexts. But the theory, usually there is very little wiggle room, right? So the theory is the theory. It should hold across borders, right? So we, you know, borders fight forces, right? It's the same, you know, in any country, but then we use it for sort of a Vietnamese context. So we even have then the mandate for our course coordinators. Your job is to contextualize this. So heavy contextualization. Much of our leadership is Vietnamese, of course, so we have to walk this fine line between, you know, this sort of Australian, Anglo-Saxon standards and the local application. And you're spot on. This is oftentimes a big discussion, right? Especially when we talk about governance, corporate governance, for example. You know, your corporate governance is more based on relationships. In Australia, it's based on contracts, something we're going to talk about a bit more. So what do we teach? You know, so we have some legal courses. Should they learn the Australian law? You know, so many questions, but so far so good. I think we heavy contextualization, localization helps us. Great question, thanks. Anything else? Okay, then maybe I start with what's sort of the I have a little presentation. And I like to call this business as, there's actually a microphone here somehow. Can you hear this when I'm standing here? Yeah, better? I don't know. So business is unusual, right? So because it's it's sort of boring to talk about things that are the same, right? So because then you know. So I want to highlight some studies my colleagues are doing that perhaps may surprise you, right? So because you have been in Vietnam 4 days now, right? So perhaps you know more than me already, right? Because when you live in the country for 10 years, then you become a bit immune to kind of surprises, right? So I would like to start with this picture. This is a picture of a cave in sort of the central part of Vietnam. Taking the airplane, it's about 1 hour flight. It's beautiful, right? Yes. And this is the largest cave system in the world. There's no larger cave system, so it's basically many caves, right, sort of connected, and there's no larger cave system in the world. The interesting thing about this is, this has been discovered only 15 years ago, right? So until 2010, nobody knew there were caves, right? And you would think, you know, in a world where we have Google mapped every square centimeter of the planet, there is not much to discover anymore. But then you come to Vietnam, and what you do is like you discover the largest cave system in the world, right? And it's not only the largest, but it's actually very beautiful. If you want to go to the very nice caves, they have about 2 or 3 years advanced reservations because they let in only 30 people a day. So if you want to go there next week, you cannot. And they charge you about $2,000 per day. And there are some, you know, it seems like some people are almost addicted to these kind of caves, right? But there are enough people that pay $2,000 a day to visit these kind of caves for a couple of days. But again, the whole point here is it's beautiful, but we still can make discoveries here in Vietnam. And I want to share with you some. So I have 3 points that I want to share with you. First, I want to talk a little bit about sort of more formal stuff, right? So what is Vietnam, sort of on paper? And then I wanted to share with you some aspects of Vietnam that may surprise you or not. Talk about demographics, the wealth, education, you know, foreign relations, and my sort of research area, how competition works in Vietnam. And then perhaps if we have time, I want to share with you also another surprising fact. Vietnam was one of the, you know, during COVID, 2020, 2021, world GDP has tanked, you know, the entire GDP, the production of, you know, goods and services around the world has gone down by 7%, you know, 7%. Basically 2 countries defied that trend, you know, actually 2 countries grew during COVID. Vietnam was one of them. So how come, I don't know, Indonesia probably went down as well during COVID, the GDP, but Vietnam has grown during COVID. And the other country is a small island somewhere that has grown, right? So so why could Vietnam defy another world trend, sort of in economic growth? That's something I think is also interesting to discuss. So let me sort of formally, you know, it's actually Vietnam. It's called the Socialist Republic of Vietnam, right? So see that we have one party here, you know, you have to follow.